morning, everyone. Good morning. Let's all stand and let's sing this wonderful song. This little light of mine, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, oh, I'm gonna let it shine. Yeah. See this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, oh, everywhere I go, showing up, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, see, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, oh, let it shine. Let it shine, all in my home. All in my home. See, I'm gonna let it shine. All in my home. I'm gonna let it shine. All in my home. Oh, see, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, see this little light of mine. Oh, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, 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 let it shine. Last time. Let it shine, oh, let it shine, let it shine. Oh yeah.
Andy Anderson. And boy, are you shining, y'all. Wow. Good morning. Woo. Big day today. Father's Day, Juneteenth tomorrow, summer solstice coming up. Welcome, welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Rogue Valley in partnership with Medford Unity. I'm Kimberly Hawkins, honored to be senior minister here. With a deep bench of awesome people, both our ecclesiastical team and our board and our congregants. Last week, our whole ecclesiastical team was away at a graduation. I'm going to tell you more about that in a minute. And we still had an awesome service here. If you're here for the very first time, we welcome you. We are a inclusive and progressive spiritual community, and we honor each person no matter where you may happen to be on your own personal spiritual journey. So if you are here for the first time, if you wouldn't mind raising your hand, we just want to give you a little warm welcome, a little love. Anybody here? Yeah, welcome. Put that hand up, Sika. Okay. We have honored musician here, Reverend Andy Anderson. We're always delighted when Andy's in the house. A lot of love for you, Andy. Our practitioner today is Laura Stewart, who will be doing our invocation and reading. Holding high watch throughout the service and having done a lovely meditation just now is Reverend Bonnie Anderson. We have an incredible sound crew and video crew and ushers, and thank you so much for all who serve and help out with this service. If you haven't already done so, please turn off your cell phone or put it in airplane mode. That's really important for the streaming and for the comfort of everybody here. Let's see. So last weekend, we all were down in Oakland at the CSL there, and I'd like Laura and Teresa to come up here, please. Yay. You knew this was coming. This was an amazing celebration. Teresa Jenkins, one of our practitioners, received her master's in consciousness studies, was hooded. And Laura, has it been 4 years now you've been in ministerial school? Laura has a few classes left, but has been at Holmes Institute and the School of Spiritual Leadership, and was hooded and stole, because a year from now she will be receiving her master's and her license as a Center for Spiritual Living minister. So I just want you all to know that there is, as you have felt, immense love for you here, and best wishes. And I know that you will both be blessed and a blessing as you continue your path of service here. Thank you both. Love you. And it is Father's Day. So I would like to invite in just a moment anybody who's a dad, a stepdad, perhaps a mentor in a fatherly role to somebody younger, to please stand up and let us give you a little love, please. Dads. Happy Father's Day. And if you're a grandpa, please remain standing. Yes, lots of them. Wow. Yay. Any great-grandpas? Yes. Ah! Woo! All right. All right, I got to ask, because there are three of you standing, any great-great-grandpas? Nope. Really? All right, Matt. Ah, wow. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. So I think that's everything. Time to take a collective deep breath now. We're going to turn it back over to Andy Anderson to play us in and center us for the invocation and reading. So the invitation after this song is not to clap, but just to stay in that meditative state as Laura prays us in. Thank you.
Looking at the sun, stars, the moon, the sky. So good to know that I'm alive. My eyes are open wide. Everything that you do, know that it's real. Just take it in and feel the love, the peace, the joy. So glad that I know it's just another blessed day. It's just another blessed day. I look all around me, all that I see is life itself looking back at me, smiling. How do you do? It's saying to me, how do you do? Everything that I say, that I do is leading me to what is true for me and for you. Oh, so glad that I know it's just another blessed day. No matter what comes and goes, life is like the river that always flows. It's breathing in, breathing out. I'm one with the one and it's alright. It's only waiting for you. So come on and dive into your truth. Oh, nothing's holding you. Today's a new you, a brand new you. blessed day, perfect time and space to love myself and let go of everything else. I choose to see the best in myself, the best in everyone else. Oh, there's nothing else I need to do. Just let His love come shining through. Oh, so glad that I know it's just another blessed day. It's just another blessed day. It's just another blessed day.
So just relaxing into the beauty of this moment, saturated with the joy, with the eloquent music of Andy, knowing that right here and right now, there is only that one power, that one presence, that one love, life, which has created this blessed day. I know that absolutely everything about this service is perfect in just the way it is and just the way that it is not. For it is all God, it is all good, and it is enough. As we come together today in community, listening to the beautiful message of Reverend Kimberly, knowing that it's going to touch each and every person's heart in just the right way, allowing us to step out into the world energized, enlivened, filled with love and compassion. As we celebrate this amazing coming together today of Father's Day and Juneteenth and the solstice, the trifecta of beautiful events coming together as one, for there is only that one power and presence, and we are it. We are its beloved. We are the place where it shows up to experience life perfectly and beautifully as us. It is our day to shine. It is our day to know this truth and to live from this truth. So for this and so much more, I am incredibly grateful as I gently and unconditionally release this into the spirit of love and the action of the law, which has already said yes. As we let go, let God, and so it is. So the reading that I have chosen today is by Reverend Scott Aubrey, and it's about Father's Day. When I was 8 years old, I caught myself on fire one morning getting ready for school. We had an open gas flame heater in the bathroom that I stood close to. You know what they say when this happens? Stop, drop, and roll. Well, I used a different strategy, to scream and run like hell. Dad tackled me in the kitchen, threw himself on me, smothered the flames with his body and hands. As he was on top of me, I remember looking into my dad's eyes, and I knew it was going to be okay. I knew that he was saving me. Ever since that day, when I would look into his face, into the eyes of my dad, I knew that I was going to be okay. That's a true story, and it's a metaphor. Look into the face of your father or your mother. Look into the eyes of people who love you and know that you are going to be okay. You are not alone. Spirit will throw itself on fire for you. Your dad, mom, friends, people in this community will throw themselves on the fire for you. We are here to save each other. You are not alone. But if you feel that there's no one who will do that for you, then you be the savior. Find something in common to love with others. and deepen those relationships. Throw yourself on the fire for someone else. And so it is.
Everything must change. Nothing stays the same. Everything must change, and no one stays the same. The young become the old, and mysteries do unfold. For that's the way of time. Yes, everyone must change. Oh, there are not many things in life you can depend on, except rain comes from the clouds, sun lights up the sky, hummingbirds do fly, winter turns to spring, a wounded heart will heal, but not too much too soon. Yes, everything must change. The young become the old. Oh, and mysteries do unfold. Oh, that's the way of time. Yes, everything must change. Oh, there are not many things in life you can depend on, except rain comes from the clouds, sun lights up the sky, hummingbirds do fly. Rain comes from the clouds, sun lights up the sky, hummingbirds do fly. Everything must change.
Andy Anderson, thank you for that choice of songs. My topic this morning is balancing grief and joy. And we grieve, don't we? I mean, things change and we don't always want it. Darn it, right? This month, our topic in Centers for Spiritual Living throughout the world is, what is it? Well, our theme is care for the soul. I think the movement in general picked self-care, but I liked the idea of care for the soul. So the first Sunday, I talked about the importance of taking Sabbath time, taking time away from the regular duties of life and the responsibilities to get quiet, to be still, to be rejuvenated, to connect with that still small voice of spirit within and divinity all around us. And that really is the only way that we continually experience peace, I believe, if we do that. Last week, while a lot of us were away at the graduation celebrating, our beautiful speaker, Cynthia Sloan, did a talk about the gift of fear. So we have a lot of emotions that aren't particularly pleasant, but they all have gifts. So if you haven't heard that talk, I invite you to listen, either on our Facebook page or on YouTube. So today I'm talking about two more emotions, balancing grief and fear. You know, we're complicated beings, are we not? We are spiritual beings having a human experience. We've all heard that expression. So as spiritual beings, we know that we're eternal souls, and that part of us, that God self, eternal part of us, cannot die, cannot be harmed or limited in any way. And yet here we are in these spacesuits called bodies, and we experience a lot of different things in our human side, many emotions, loss, and I think that grief right now in our world is pretty rampant. You know, you think about what we've been through the last few years with COVID, losing people we loved, or at least knowing somebody who's lost somebody they loved. Seeing on the news things like bodies, remember bodies stacked up in trucks because there wasn't enough room in the morgue? I mean, it was really a traumatic period globally. And there's so many other things going on. Unfortunately, continually we're watching mass shootings. We're experiencing and watching evidence of racism and brutality by some police officers against Black people. There's just so much going on to be grieving. And how do we balance those two things? How do we balance the spiritual truths we teach, which is, as Laura prayed, it's all God, it's all good, and always Spirit is wanting the highest and best for us, which is all true. But we have these feelings, don't we? These tough feelings, and how do we best cope with them? How do we understand them? I think the first thing I'd like to say about that is that there's no way around grief. We can't do a spiritual bypass. We can't say, oh, it's all good, it's all God. Because what happens then, if we have deep feelings of grief, and I know many of us have probably experienced this, what happens is it doesn't go away, and it comes out in other ways. It comes out at anger, sometimes at the ones we're closest to. It comes out as physical symptoms in the body. So the only way to heal grief is to feel it and move through it. Yes? Not always easy, right? I wanted to read a poem by one of my favorites, Mary Oliver, because I think she speaks so beautifully to how we best handle grief. It's called Heavy. That time I thought I could not go any closer to grief without dying. I went closer, and I did not die. Surely God had his hand in this, as well as friends. Still, I was bent, and my laughter, as the poet said, was nowhere to be found. Then said my friend Daniel, brave even among lions, it's not the weight you carry, but how you carry it. Books, bricks, grief, it's all in the way you embrace it, balance it, carry it, when you could not and would not put it down. So I went practicing. Have you noticed? Have you heard the laughter that comes now and again out of my startled mouth? How I linger to admire the things of this world that are kind and maybe also troubled. Roses in the wind, the sea geese on the steep waves, a love to which there is no reply. Mary Oliver. So that time she thought she couldn't go any closer to grief, but she did, and she didn't die. That's the truth. That's the invitation for all of us when we experience loss. And I'm sure there are many of us in the room today who are grieving the absence physically of our fathers who are no longer here. I know there are people in our congregation who have lost loved ones this year and recently. And it's a difficult road to travel, but we can do it. And especially with the support of spiritual community, we can do it. There are stages of grief. We've all heard about them: shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, eventually acceptance, which doesn't initially mean your grief is gone, but it means that you're starting the path of coming back to living a normal life and reclaiming things that give you joy. I love the line in Mary Oliver's poem about the laughter that startled her coming out of her mouth, because little by little, as time goes by and we feel our feelings, we start to feel glimpses of joy, right? And sometimes we feel guilty about that. You know, in the old days, in the 1700s, there were strict rules about grieving. If you lost a spouse, you wore black and avoided any kind of public event or party for 2 years. Yeah. And I hope I can get this right, but there were other rules. If you lost, depending on who else you lost, if you lost a parent, you wore black and avoided any social situations for 1 year. Grandparents and siblings, 6 months, and aunts and uncles, 2 months. I'm so glad we got over that. I mean, we didn't get over grieving, but the fact is we all grieve in unique ways, you know? And God, I don't want to wear black. You know, I have done many memorial services where the grieving parties have invited us all to wear the favorite color of the person who died, which is so fun to celebrate, right? Rather than black and mourning, because yes, we grieve, and yes, it's sad, and yes, we also celebrate. I'm going to read a quote that I was going to use at the end, but it's just coming to mind. It's from Winnie the Pooh. He said, "How lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard." So the fact is, when we grieve because we loved, right? And because we still love, and that's a beautiful thing. Now, the things not to say or that hurt, you know, we just have trouble, I know, with our own emotions. And when someone else is in pain, especially someone else that we love, we often want to fix it. We want to make it go away. And you know what? We can't, right? I think some of you know that I once, as a counselor, I facilitated a support group for parents who had lost infants to SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. And they would come into our monthly meetings and share some of the things that when they went back to work, their well-meaning coworkers would say to them. And I say well-meaning because nobody wants to inflict pain on someone who's grieving, but part of the motivation behind the things that sometimes are said to grieving people are, I want to make you feel better because I don't want to feel my own sadness. So it was things like, okay, honey, it's been a year now, let's get on with your life. Or to someone who'd lost a child, which was the case for these parents, well, you can always have another child. True, right? But it doesn't, yeah. Or he's in a better place, which is also true, but it doesn't help. So just a reminder to all of us that if we are grieving, one of the things we can do is reach out to friends, to ministers, to practitioners, to community members who will listen. And to those of us who are supporting people in grief, you know, there's really nothing great that we can say. I was taught by my mommy, and I bet a lot of you were, sorry for your loss. It's not a bad thing to say, but the fact is we don't lose people. We don't lose them. And maybe we need to stop affirming that. Yes, we lose their physical presence here, and yes, we grieve and mourn and miss being able to talk to them in the physical or hug them, but we haven't lost them. Because in Science of Mind, we know that our souls are eternal. There is only one life, and God knows, I know many of you have experienced this when you've lost someone, they're nearer. They're here in our hearts. We get signs that they're here. We don't lose them. But it is a journey, I think, to get to the place where we really know that. My dear friend, Reverend Larry Marie Heil, who I went through all of ministerial school with, and I know these two have good friends. It's an amazing, deepening journey, and you get really close to people. Larry Marie started a community in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is Bible country. Not an easy place to set up a new thought center, but she's doing it. And I didn't know Larry when this happened, but she lost her son, King, when he was a young adult. King had juvenile diabetes. He was what's called a brittle diabetic, and she knew that he probably wouldn't live as long as she would. And she's written a book now as part of her doctorate studies. It's called From Grief to Gratitude, The Journey to a Whole Heart. And Larry, in the book, shares, and she's allowed me to share this, although the book isn't printed yet, it's still being edited. When she first lost King, she spent 5 years in spiritual bypass. She had grown up, even from childhood, having joy as her theme, living a joyful life. And so she would say things to people like, he's in a better place, it's all good, for 5 years. And she wasn't happy. And it was working her, and it was eating at her. And finally, a very wise, loving spiritual counselor said to her, Larry, you need to take a look at the grief. You need to feel it. And as a result, she has come out of this process so equipped to help other people along the journey. She had a friend who lost a son in a tragic car accident. And the friend did this, and I know you've all heard stories like that. The friend put all of his pictures away. There wasn't a photo of him in the house. She never talked about the son to her husband or her other son who survived the same crash. And years went by, and this woman was not able to reconnect with her joy. And Larry said to her, she asked Larry, how is it you're able to talk about your son with such joy? And Larry said, I've come to the place where I know he's in my heart, he's in my mind, he's in my life. I have not lost him. And Larry suggested to the friend that she bring out all those photos, put them back in the house, that she start talking about her son, sharing both the good memories and the hard memories and what he meant to her life. And as she did this, Larry said, both her husband and her son told Larry, she's a different person. She began to heal. She began to once again experience a whole heart. There's a quote from a letter from heaven. When tomorrow starts without me, don't think we're far apart. For every time you think of me, I'm right there in your heart. So the theme being self-care, when we're grieving, and we're all grieving in one form or another. And it could be grieving a lost loved one. It could be grieving the loss of a physical capability. It could be we're all getting older, the loss of some of our mental acuity. There's so many things, like Andy said, that change. I mean, life is all about change. God help us if we think we can live life and never have anything change, right? So here's some of the things Larry recommends in her book, and I think they're beautiful tips when we're grieving. Try to choose one activity each day that will feed your soul. And it's hard when we're in depression, because in depression, sometimes we just want to sleep, or we can't sleep, or we want to just eat and binge, or we can't. I mean, there's so many ways we can respond, but to choose in the morning one thing. So it might be talking to a friend and allowing them to share cherished memories of your loved one. It might be renewing a hobby that gave you joy in the past, or going somewhere your child would have loved and just kind of celebrating that. I remember in this support group I was doing for parents that were grieving, they would have birthday parties for their departed child, and they would invite the whole community, the support group, and they would celebrate the birthday, which was so sweet to do, instead of just sitting home alone. Joining a positive support group for grief is always a good choice. Holly Whitaker said, joy and grief do not average one another out. They exist fully, sometimes right next to each other. So allowing ourselves to enjoy things even in the midst of grief is also a good idea. Our founder of Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes, tells us, he speaks of death as a transition. He says, I don't see how there can be life after death. There can't be any. There is no life after death because there is no death. It's just a continuation of life. And yet, on the human level, there is an ending, isn't there? There is a change. I was thinking about the experiences I've heard of losing people. And I bet you've all heard stories or maybe experienced a story in your own family where someone's dying and the family, if they're scattered across the country, are trying to get back to see the person before they make their transition. And oftentimes, someone will hang on until that last son or daughter comes, and then boom, that night or the next day they go. On the contrary, sometimes we'll sit a vigil at a dying person's bedside and not want to leave, and the 20-minute period or maybe even less that we take to go to the bathroom or get something to eat, they leave. And then we feel guilty and bad. And you know what? I believe we each choose our time. On some level, we do. And so some people making that transition feel like it'd be better to go when the person's not there. And some feel it's very important to wait until the son or daughter is there to say goodbye. When my own mom was ill, fatally, she had multiple myeloma, cancer of the blood. She got a blood infection. And we had paramedics come, rushed her to the hospital. And I gotta say, man, I will forever be grateful to those paramedics. So sweet, so honoring the way they treated her. And she was in the hospital, and they wanted to keep her several more days to give her antibiotics, because a blood infection will kill you very quickly. And yes, she had cancer, and yes, she was dying, but she might have had a few more months, right? She wanted to go home. Mom wanted to go home. And so they reluctantly discharged her. They wanted to keep her on, IV antibiotics, and they couldn't if they sent her home. So they gave her these pills that were horse pills. I've told this story. And I tried so hard, and my sister, we crushed them up and we put them in applesauce, and we tried so hard, and she refused to have them. And I realized, and I was told, she wouldn't make it through the weekend. And I felt panicked, and I felt terrible, and I felt responsible. And she passed peacefully with all of us there around her. And my beautiful spiritual mentor, Alice Bandy, who since has made her transition, Reverend Alice Bandy, in a session with her afterwards, she said to me, Kimberly, when someone is ready to leave this earth plane, nothing and no one can keep them here. And until they're ready, nothing and no one can push them off. And that's interesting, isn't it? Because we hear stories of tragic accidents and unexpected deaths, but maybe, just maybe, on some level, that person has chosen to go at that time and in that way. I think it's very possible, and it's a reassuring thought. I remember reading a story once, and I wish I could give you, it was a true story, I wish I could give you the reference, but I don't remember where, about a woman who was a high-powered businesswoman. And she had to make tough decisions, and she did it, easily and decisively. And at some point in her life, she adopted a little girl and fell in love with the little girl. And when the little girl was still quite young, elementary school aged, she died. And the woman was heartbroken. And she went to some kind of a psychic, some kind of a medium who was able to communicate with the daughter. And what she learned was the daughter had chosen to come in as her daughter to open her heart, to soften her up. And knowing that helped in that grieving process because there was a purpose. So it's a lot to think about, my friends, but I think more than anything else, the lesson is be gentle with ourselves and with someone else going through the grieving process. There is no timetable that says it's a year, you got to be over it. We don't ever get over it, do we? Well, we don't want to get over it. We want to have that person in our hearts. So I want to end with a beautiful story that Larry tells in her book. On the 5th anniversary of King's death, it was Memorial Day weekend when he passed. And I don't know if I told you already, but she had never returned the last phone call he made to her, and she felt guilty about that. She got over that because, we're still in connection, right? But she decided, it was at that point where she was starting to go through the grief instead of, whitewashing it. So she decided to go to the Oregon coast, to Lincoln City, because it was a town where they had spent time together and had great times, family picnics and walking the beach and teaching King to fly a kite and all that sort of stuff. And she hadn't made a reservation, which was kind of, she said, foolish, because it was a Memorial Day weekend on the coast, right? But she saw a sign for garden suites or something like that, and she thought that looked good. So she walked in, and it was actually a condominium. And she thought, well, she was a single mom at that point. She didn't have money to buy a condominium, but they were renting them out, and there was one room available that night only. It was booked for the following night. So she went in and looked, and when she walked in the room, she really didn't think she was going to rent it, but there was a pillow on the bed that said, blessed, no wait, let me get this right, stressed is desserts spelled backwards. That had meaning for her because King was a chef. Stressed is dessert spelled backwards. So she took that as a sign. She rented the room for the night, went to the grocery store. She couldn't afford to go out to eat, but she put together a beautiful dinner in the kitchen, set the table beautifully, just as King would have done in his restaurant, and had his photo there, and lit candles, and had a beautiful meal, and felt his presence so much, and just had some joy, being there, connecting with him. It was really stormy that night, and the power went out, and she said she had dyed her hair, and she was stuck, just no power, and the manager came up to tell her, but again, she just sat in the dark and the quiet and enjoyed King's presence. The next morning, the power was on, the sun came out, and she took a walk on the beach. And she thought, I'm going to collect 5 shells to commemorate the 5 years since his death. She said it was kind of funny because I'm not a shell collector. My sister and my daughter both do that. I don't, but I just was led to do that. So she went collecting her shells, and the fourth thing she picked up was a heart-shaped stone with a chip in it. And she thought, oh, King, thank you, how perfect, because I've been telling everybody that a piece of my heart is missing. And she heard a voice, clear and loud, King's voice, saying, oh no, that's not the right one that I sent you. You need to go down the beach near that yellow building. That's where Well, it was 3/4 of a mile down the beach, and her back was not real good, but she trudged the 3/4 of a mile to the yellow building. She was led to look down at some point, picked up a perfect, complete heart. And she went, wow. The lesson is, my heart is complete. He wants me to have a full heart. He is right here. He wants me to enjoy life as he did, living with a disease he knew might kill him. And it was just such a healing moment to be wholehearted again. I cried when I read that story. So, my friends, we can indeed balance grief and joy. We are meant to be joy-filled, but we're also meant to love and to have changes and experience changes and support each other through those changes. Thomas Moore, author of one of our books of the month, Care of the Soul, said, "Earth has no sorrow that heaven cannot heal." Earth has no sorrow that heaven cannot heal. That's why we're in community together. That's why we support each other. That's why we study spiritual truths, to remember, not to whitewash, all is God, all is good, but to remember the ultimate truth. Life is eternal. Love is all there is. And whoever we appear to lose, if we get still, lives right here. We can be wholehearted throughout our lives. Let's go into prayer. I'm going to invite any practitioners or ministers in the room to stand with me in consciousness while we pray. Thank you. So truth with a capital T is that there is only one life living itself as each of us. That life is God's life. That life is my life. That life is the life of each one here, whether we're here in the physical realm or we're on the other side. There's a beautiful poem I have read at memorials that says, "They're not gone, they've just stepped into the next room." We can't see them, but they're here. That life that we live cannot be damaged in any way. So that God, that source of each of us, that breathes us, that supplies us, that guides us, that guided Larry to pick up those stones on the beach, it is always with us, and it is love, it is peace, it is harmony, it is oneness, it is joy, it is wholeness, and it is now, it is forever. I know that each of us was meant to live a joy-filled life. I know that each of us will experience change, will experience loss, and that it's possible to sit with that, to feel it, to move through it, that the only way is not around it, but through it. I know that there's support both from our friends, our community, our spiritual community, and from the Creator itself. that is always here, ready to whisper whatever we need to hear if we get still and listen. So on this Father's Day, on this day when we're about to commemorate the terrible tragedy in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the racism that still exists, what I know is that each of us is here for a purpose. We can't do everything there is to do, but we can each do a piece. And when we follow guidance and we exercise self-care, when we connect with others, when we reach out either to support or be supported, healing happens, wholeheartedness happens, and we can see clearly what is ours to do. And we can create a world that works for everyone, no matter our color, no matter our sexual orientation, no matter our physical ability, our age, and so on. We are one. So my prayer this week is that each of us can indeed care for our own souls, recognize when someone else may need a listening ear, a meal, an invitation to go out, that each of us can be tuned in to that love thread that connects each of us, both those of us around us visibly and those on the other side. We are never far apart. And let us remember that if our hearts are hurting, it is only because we loved so deeply. As Winnie the Pooh said, how lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard and lets know that saying goodbye is never an eternal goodbye. It's a temporary goodbye. We are one, always and forever. Giving thanks to know this, giving thanks for this beautiful spiritual community that so beautifully supports all of us, no matter what stage of life we're going through. Giving thanks for this beautiful teaching called New Thought, Unity, and Science of Mind. Giving thanks for each one in the room, for our fathers, for our mothers, for our children, for those still with us, and those just in the other room. I release this prayer knowing it's heard, it's answered, as all prayers are. And we say together, so it is. Amen.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, hallelujah. Love is the strongest force that I know. You only need to recognize and know. Love will heal, love can reveal all you need to know, and then you let it go. You see, I never thought, I never knew there's a love could be so wonderful and new. I let it lead me and guide me on my way. I'm here to testify and say it's only love that can set me free. It's only love that will let me see I am whole and complete. It's only love that lives in me. Oh, I'm so glad I know I am one with this power that makes it so. You have to live this love from the inside out. See, there's no doubt what this love's all about. I wake up every morning with a smile on my face, knowing this love will show me the way. I have to trust my inner knowing, step into my truth. Then only then will I know this truth is love. It's only love that can set me free. It's only love that will let me see I am whole and complete, yeah. It's only love that lives in me. Oh, only love. Oh, only love. Oh, only love, yeah. Oh, only love. Only love. Oh, only love.
Anderson. Oh my. Thank you. And so true, yes. I'm going to call our ushers forward. Renee, are you the only usher today? She's doing double duty. There we go. Thank you. Come on up. It's our time for tithes and offerings. And boy, I hope I'm not embarrassing her, but I had such a beautiful reminder this week of, as you know, we always say, as we give, we receive. You know, there's this reciprocal nature, this circulation. As many of you know, our board president, Kathy Green, just had knee replacement surgery. And she's recuperating fine, and she's had amazing support from our community with rides to PT and food delivered. It's just so wonderful. And my beautiful housemate, Vivian, just spent the week supporting her. And we took a well-deserved couple days off this weekend and did hiking and going out and going to Karen Parnell's sound bath. And everywhere we went, we were hiking, and we had people coming to us when we get lost, right at the moment we needed them. Here's where you go. It happened 3 different times. Karen had, and I said to Vivian, as you give, so you receive. It's like the universe going, sweetheart, we love you. Look at what you've done. I'm hoping that's okay that I shared that, Viv. I usually ask permission first, but anyway. So, as we share our good, we know we open the door for that circulation. So I invite you, and first of all, thank you. We had a beautiful month. We are in the black for the whole year right now, which is amazing considering a lot of churches that are not. Thank you. Yeah, there's great energy going on here. So if you would repeat our affirmation after me, please. Graciously I give.
Graciously I give.
From a place of love.
From a place of love.
Knowing that as I give, so do I richly receive. So it is. You've got envelopes if you need them for either CSL or Medford. Those of you who are watching us online, thank you so much for being with us, and you can give on our website if you wish to. www.cslroguevalley.org. Thank you.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. Oh, I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
So before we break for some refreshments in Bosworth Hall, a few announcements here. Tomorrow evening at 7 p.m., Women's Drumming Circle is happening. If you haven't experienced that, I invite you to try it out. Unity's Prayer Circle happens at 10:30 Tuesday, and Tai Chi at 11:30 right here. Miracle Makers Group meets this Wednesday at 10:30. Our practitioners are having a retreat this coming weekend at Bonnie and Andy's home in Roseburg, and Reverend Elisha Christopher, a young, dynamic minister who you may have heard, he's been our guest speaker before, will be our facilitator, but he will be here next Sunday along with all the practitioners and ministers back from the retreat to do the talk, and you will not want to miss this person. He is enlightened. He's awesome. Let's see, a couple other live announcements. We have Julie Wright from Unity, lovely musician. Where did I do with it? She is having a Spirit Sing event here in the evening, and it is on Friday, June 30th from 6:30 to 7:30. We'll have details in our newsletter, but it's a number of musicians, including Deb Graber. Deb, you here with us? Nope? Okay. Anyway, it should be awesome. Donations accepted. Good time to sing your hearts out with Spirit as Spirit. And Patricia, our lovely Patricia Van Ever, has an announcement about ushering. And while she's walking up here, I got to tell you, this woman was here heading the search committee 8 years ago when I was hired, and I will never forget you. She and Will picked me up at the airport. Can I tell that story? They picked me up at the airport. I was flying in from LAX, and I kept saying, where am I going to meet you? Oh, don't worry, we'll see you when you get off the plane. I'm thinking, LAX, right? So, yeah, I got off the plane, and they were right there, and they took me out to lunch. And I fell in love with the Rogue Valley, which is very different from LAX. Okay, Patricia.
Yeah, I drove her up 62 to Lost Creek Lake,
Yeah.
and the sweet peas were out and the daisies were out, and so she was just sold. It was just a wonderful
This time of year,
experience.
right?
Yeah,
8 years
yeah,
ago.
yeah. Okay, it's time for the usher sign-ups for July, and there is, on this clipboard, there's a list of all the ushers who have signed up already. So if you're not on that list, would you also put your phone number and your email address? And then there's also guidelines under here too. So if you have any questions or any suggestions, because I want to hear what the people who are doing the job, ushering, has suggestions, I'm always welcome to hear them. So it's time to sign up for July, and know that it's going to be a great month. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patricia. All right, so sign up for our weekly e-newsletter if you're not getting it. The sign-up sheet's in Bosworth Hall. There is a prayer box at the back of the auditorium here, and there's a unity prayer box there. Don't leave here with something heavy on your heart. Our practitioners are here to do a 5-minute prayer treatment for you and bring you peace and pray for you or anyone in your heart that you feel needs prayer. I think that's it. I'm going to invite our practitioners and ministers to come up. Again, they're available for you. Steal a little place here or in the office to talk with them. I'm going to invite everyone else to try to, you're such a social crowd and I love that, but if we could try to move into there and leave this place a little quiet for prayer, that would be awesome. And I think we'll just turn it over to Andy for our closing song.
Yes. Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way. Let me love in a holy, holy way. Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way. Let me love in a holy, holy way. Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way. Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way. Oh, let me serve in a holy, holy way. Let me serve in a holy, holy way. Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way. Let me love in a holy, holy way.